Hello, a beautiful morning from the nation's capital, Abuja. Welcome to Press Talk on Television Nigerian. As usual, on Press Talk, we get the views and opinion of journalists as they analyze topical issues that made headlines across the media. On this platform, we interface journalists who will give us precise and in-depth analysis of news events. I am your host, Samuel Akman. With me on Press Talk today is Silvanus Okwe and Dan Atai. Gentlemen, welcome to Press Talk.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Akman.
Okay, right away we move to our first headlines. And now the Supreme Court has declared President Muhammadu Buhari winner of the 2019 presidential election. It has finally been laid to rest. The tussle. What's your opinion?
First it was at the polls. The presidential election held. The PDP and its candidates, Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, there was this confidence, there were high hopes that the PDP will return to the power at the center. But the hope was dashed at the polls. They proceeded to the Presidential Election Petition Tribunals, where they lost the elections, even at the tribunal, and from there, being dissatisfied with the judgment of the Presidential Election Petition Tribunal, Atiku had appealed to the Supreme Court, the court of finality. We call it the court of finality in law, because from Supreme Court, the appeal goes only to the God Almighty, maybe when we are no more.
That's what the PDP have said, because obviously they are not happy with the Supreme Court judgment.
Yes, but the main issue is that from Supreme Court, you go nowhere. If you are not happy, the only thing the PDP can do now is to wait for 2023, present a candidate that will command popular vote, do well, re-strategize, go back to the drawing board and come up with an eligible candidate that maybe, as President Muhammad Buhari is not coming back, the PDP, if they put their house in order, because from what we are seeing in the APC, there might be crisis before 2023. So if PDP can do well, bring forth a candidate with overwhelming support of the populace, maybe they can come back to the power at the center. But then, so many persons have criticized the outcome of the proceeding at the Supreme Court.
At this point, I'll come back to you. Now, Mr. Dan. I'll come back to him. I want to get your response first. Okay. Now, judging from the observation, would you say Nigerians are happy about this judgment?
Of course, it is a victory for Nigerian democracy, if you ask me, from the point of view that President Muhammadu Buhari, after his just one tenure of 4 years, the essence of the 4 years was justified, and the reasons why I could say Nigerians will be happy about the judgment is on the ground that before the 2015 election that brought President Muhammadu Buhari to power, Nigerians, you could see it all over the country, they were agitating for change of government from the PDP administration, which they termed too corrupt. You understand? As an analyst, I will be objective to you. Even if what we are seeing so far is not completely what we are expecting or what we expected the government to be. From that point of view, the re-election of President Muhammadu Buhari was completely, by Nigerians. Mr. Akpan, I don't know whether you get. I want to.
I'm with you.
It was completely by Nigerians, and overwhelmingly, Nigerians voted for the APC, believing that they will still get to where PDP never took them to. However, on the basis of legal technicalities, I may not give 100% to the legal framework of the panel for their judgment.
Now, in which aspect are you faulting the legal framework of the judgment?
Because that is where also I will say that PDP didn't do their homework well. If you are going to challenge an election of irregularity or that your opponent did not win, my friend here is a lawyer, you should have evidence, isn't it? You should have facts and figures to present based on the rigging. Where you do not justify your assertion, you lose. Before moving to another technicality like WAEC certificate, this man is not qualified, is not competent, is somebody from Sudan, all those things, you have to base your assertions with facts and figures. If you had wanted to base your argument on Buhari's certificate, base it squarely. Don't say that Nigerians didn't vote for him, that they voted Atiku.
Okay, now let me get your opinion now. You were talking about
the reactions
that has trailed the victory that is President Muhammadu Buhari victory at the Supreme Court. Now, the PDP obviously are not happy with the judgment. Why do you think they are not happy?
Let me first of all thank the former president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, the Waziri of Adamawa, for expending the constitutional processes available to him as a Nigerian in challenging the victory of President Muhammadu Buhari. We have had in the past when persons, especially in African continent, will resort to violence and fanning the embers of division just because they've not won election. Having said that, I'll follow up with this fact that has been propounded by legal pundits. Supreme Court is final not because it is infallible, not because it doesn't make mistakes, but it doesn't make mistake because it is final. You might not understand it. What I mean by that is that Supreme Court decision might not be 100% accurate, even 30%, but it is final.
I mean, is humans we have in the
yes, they are human. They are human beings in the temple of justice. But then, the Supreme Court, the hasty judgment that came out of Supreme Court yesterday left much to be worried about. As a lawyer, I congratulated Atiku for contributing to the deepening of our judicial processes and also for strengthening our legal frameworks. Though the Supreme Court has not given the ratio decidendi, that is the reason for the judgment. When they give the reasons, maybe they will add one or two to our legal balance and grow our legal framework. But I will say that the judgment was hasty. I heard it was about 63 grounds of appeal, and this judgment did not take more than 6 hours. One of the greatest pillars of justice is the alteram patem. You must hear the other side. It is a principle of fair hearing. Are you telling me that 6 hours was enough for the PDP to have brought out their evidences, argued their case before the Supreme Court yesterday? The Supreme Court wasted no time, and the caliber and the pedigree of the justices on the panel. There is a justice on the panel that I revere so much. May seeing his name on the panel, I believed the justices of the Supreme Court will do due diligence the case and before delivering their judgment.
I would say they've done due diligence. You know why? Because I think these people, they are justices, and then they must have been following
from the tribunal
down, and so they must have been doing their own.
That is the essence of an appeal. An appeal is, we are not happy with the tribunal. Make a thorough assessment of our case yourself. If you are depending on what is happening at the tribunal, that means it is no longer an appeal.
No, they must have been doing their own homework. Apart from
the appeal is there are different grounds
in the tribunal.
Yes, but these people have challenged the judgment of the tribunal on 63 grounds. What I'm saying is that little time yesterday couldn't have been enough for lawyers to adduce evidence and make prepositions in support of their cases.
You disagree with his assertions?
Well, I'm not a lawyer, like I said. He is, and but from my own point of view, that as an analyst, that I would like to give is that if you said 63 points of argument were laid before
63 grounds of appeal.
63 grounds of appeal were laid before the Supreme Court. Before the Supreme Court. The only ground I want to speak from, that I know somebody could be said you didn't win this election, is on the ground of how many votes were counted for you justifiably, and how many votes were counted for you against you that made the other person won. The PDP, how an article had 11 million votes. The APC and President Muhammadu Buhari have 15 million over 15 million votes. Now, the difference between these
4 million.
The difference, no, it's about 3.9 million, about 3 million, approximately. Atiku and the PDP left this basis, this very base, this argument of this vote, this margin, and went talking about other 62 other grounds that really does not matter.
But they raised the issue.
But the fact is that the INEC, the electoral body, which is INEC, and the first appellant court,
the tribunal,
this thing that judgment, have justified that this vote that made the president stands and valid. So if you are appealing on another ground, you should have much evidence to justify that you could win.
See where I think the Supreme Court.
You understand? So for me, President Buhari won that election.
Okay, now what did the Supreme Court
please let me, don't be hasty. Don't be hasty and take it.
We're not hasty.
I want to hit the
I may
name.
actually get back to you.
I know you will get back to me.
You see, what he's saying that, Atiku challenged that result, that 11 million and 15 million in its entirety, alleging that his own votes were suppressed by 2.something million, and that Buhari didn't get up to the 15 million votes that were allotted to him by the Independent National Electoral Commission. What the Supreme Court ought to have done was to give them ample time to back up their assertions with evidences, which would not have happened within the time frame the proceedings started at the Supreme Court yesterday and when judgment was delivered. And even though in law we recognize the fact that justices of courts, the Supreme Court, the High Court, and the Court of Appeal, sometimes they give judgment without giving reasons. I believe that for transparency, for democracy, and for judgment to have integrity, you have to give us reasons.
Definitely.
If reasons will be postponed,
the Supreme Court will definitely give us reasons.
They will.
Gentlemen, let's move to our next headline, where Nigeria reject Vietnam rice importation plea over border closure. Now, the federal government has rejected plea by Vietnam that its rice should not be allowed into Nigeria. Now, instead, the federal government asked Vietnamese investors to build rice processing mills in Nigeria, given the country's large arable lands and potentials in rice farming.
Of course, it is a normal thing to do if you have closed your borders and you want to start productivity. Productivity begins by industrialization. So if you want to be bringing your product to Nigeria, we have, like my industrialist will say that local content, or let's bring the machines down to the country instead of taking the jobs to the machines overseas. Let's bring the machines here. Since we have the resources, we have the land, we have the raw materials, so let them come and build their industries here and manufacture. You understand? And then it will grow local content and give employment to our people. It's as simple as ABC.
Okay, now Sylvanus, is this really
building
our economy?
Let me say that the entire issue of border closure was hasty, ill-advised, and with grievous adverse effect on our economy. Like I said, you don't close border before ensuring productivity. You ensure productivity and attain sufficiency before you close down borders.
Yeah.
Look at the number of persons. Do you know how many amount of monies that have been lost by importers? They are Nigerians too. They have rights to do businesses. Do you know the amount of monies that have been lost? So many persons have sent in, they have started importation, they came to borders with their goods and they are stocked there. Those goods are perishable goods and they are inside the water. Most of them have perished. Those persons lose millions daily and they are taxpayers in the country. What the president would have, it would have been a gradual process when we start by empowering farmers positively, not just empowering them but ensure safety, ensure security, and ensure that we give them mechanized processes to grow in large quantities. The government did not do this. They woke up one day and took a hasty decision, closed down borders and entrenched suffering, hardship and hunger in the country. Bag of rice now has gone to 20-something thousand and we are not sufficient in rice production. Had it been locally produced rice can be able to go round, we would have said, okay, at least let us be sufficient in only rice. The government is, I don't know who is advising this government on economy, but the advisors do not have the interest of the country at heart.
Now, Dan, has the ban on rice importation, has it had any impact on the economy in terms of rice production, local rice production now?
It depends on the angle you are looking at the impact. Local production, yes.
In terms of boosting our own local rice production?
Yes, it will definitely boost like
will
rice.
Or has?
It will, and hold on. In analysis, you wait for somebody to land. In some percentage, this past 4 years that we spent, local rice production is about 30%. However, we are yet to have the market hub. What I mean by market hub is that at every state in the 36 states of the country, there should be a hub from the state government and say, this warehouse across the world or across the local government, you can mill your rice here, rice mill here, have the market here. People can, investors can, can come and buy rice from here, take to another part. There should be market hubs at strategic places in the state. Although the time frame of 4 years is not enough to do that. However, regionally and at state level, we have market hubs, but not at local government and world level yet. And I think the closure, the ban on importation will encourage the rapid growth. We know that yes, people will pass through suffering. There is nothing, economy is very hard to build. It's one of the hardest things to build, especially if you look at countries like Belgium, close to France, the border France, they opened their border. All through their lifetime, their existence, their border has been open. They do nothing. They only access goods, import, flow like that. So that is how they earn their own GDI. But a country with a lot of crisis and unproductivity like ours, I agree with my friend that to some extent, palliative measures should have been in place, or local content or local productivity should have engulfed within these 4 years. But the issue of corruption, if you look at the Bank of Industry and the Bank of Agriculture, most of the loans given so far were given to middlemen who are already big men, who are not even farmers. So I think that is the area the government will need to look into now and throw their spectacle into who is who among the farmers. Do we have the last farmer? Is this bank loan getting to the last farmer in the village, in the rural area? Do we have rice mills at the rural areas where this rice are produced? You understand? We should have those things. Not that middlemen will form cooperative and then within the cooperative they share the money in billions and nothing happens, and what we still have is subsistence farming. So if we are going to be productive in rice production, we will get out of subsistence farming of rice and go to mechanized farming of rice, and those things the government can do them within 1 year if they want to.
This is still Press Talk on Television Nigeria. We will go on a short break. When we return, the program continues.
Of the north-central Nigeria with its raw mix of cultures, treasures, and amazing people. Based in the vibrant glory of the beauty of nature with striking landscapes. And that's the best from agriculture, commerce and entrepreneurship. Put in a mix of local politics and governance from a resourceful people with amazing lifestyles, and you are right in the center of the northern Nigeria. North Central Journal, a compendium of people, places, news and views, all in an amazing mix that bears it all. Only on Television Nigerian.
Welcome back. In case you are just joining us, this is Press Talk on Television Nigeria. Now we'll move to our next headline, where Buhari says agriculture is key to poverty reduction in Nigeria. Now, President Muhammadu Buhari on Wednesday in Riyadh said investment and reforms in the agriculture sector holds the key to his administration quest to lift 100 million Nigerians out of poverty in the next 10 years. Gentlemen, we all know that agriculture plays a key role in changing the Nigerian economy. Is the president in Riyadh now talking about poverty, agriculture and poverty reduction? Have we really seen, in terms of security, has it really affected farmers in terms of production?
Let me start by saying that it is a commendable thing for the president to diversify our economy, revenue allocation formula and the sources of our revenue, because we've been practicing a monopolistic revenue source, only just fuel and diesel, and this has not really helped, because in the nearest future we see some countries ditching fuel for other new products like energy and solar energy and coal. But let me say that there are much to be done if we must ensure a productive agricultural sector. One is the security of the farmers in the rural areas. We all know what happened in Benue State. Now, so many villages are uninhabitable because of the herdsmen attack in those villages in Benue State, where farmers were killed in their numbers. This has affected the productivity in the agricultural sector in that state. Secondly,
and owing to the fact that Benue State is
the food basket of the nation. So security of those citizens, Buhari must, the federal government in the administration of Muhammad Buhari must ensure that these persons are resettled in their villages and equipped. They should be empowered to immediately start agricultural activities. Two, most of these villages lack good roads. Even if they produce, how do they get them to the market? There is a place in Enugu State, Adan. Federal government investment, billions of naira investment. They call it Ada rice. They produce rice in large quantity. It is dying now because we have not had an administration that is serious and pragmatic about diversifying our economy and helping agriculturists. And two, just like my co-discussant said earlier about middlemen, we must eliminate them. When Jonathan came, during the time of the current president of AFD, Biafran Development Bank, Akinwumi Adesina, as the Minister of Agriculture, it was through text message. You send them text, they come to your house, they verify that you are farming, they see the farm, they give you fertilizer. Jonathan fought corruption in the area of empowerment of farmers in the rural area. They were getting fertilizers directly from the federal government. But under President Muhammad Buhari, we see the return of middlemen en mass. They have returned again, and they have hijacked all the palliative measures that are meant for those farmers in the rural area.
I'll come back to you. Mr. Dan, you want to react to some of his assertions?
Yeah, not his assertion per se, but I would like to just correct that impression that Jonathan didn't fight corruption in the agri sector. But I don't want us to have argument on that.
And let's dwell on the president's statement.
Yeah, and let's dwell on
what is in place.
Jonathan didn't fight any corruption in the agri sector at all. In fact, he had nothing to do with the agri sector. He was only introducing what we call SHOPI, subsidy reinvestment program, and it never worked. It was still hacked by the middlemen. So on agriculture, if you look at the country right now, the persons you can adjudge to say these are farmers, you can name like Obasanjo farm, IBB farm, this man in Edo, what is his name? Anyway, Lucky Benidion farm, Otom, governor of Benue State, that is Samuel Otom. This is Oracle farm, and few others. And we're talking about a nation of about 200 million populace, where about 60% of the workforce are youth, and you want to diversify. Before now, most of our youth, we have indulged in laxity of, joblessness and the age of computerization, where people go into Yahoo and so on. So we can also, in addition to agricultural development, look into the ICT area. Is a big market for the Nigerian.
I mean, we can bring technology into agriculture.
Yeah, seriously, without the technology, there will be no efficient and reliable agricultural product. There won't be. Completely, it will be zero. So we'll look into that and then merge it. However, if the issue of the Bank of Agriculture and Bank of Industry loans to farmers are not handled, with first come, first serve basis and with digitalization basis. What I mean digitalization basis is that since you know me, this is my identity card as a Nigerian citizen, and I want to go into farming, I should be able to approach the Bank of Agriculture without any shorty. You understand? Without any middleman, without any cooperative entity to register with. Assess me as a citizen, assess my land, assess my business plan, and give me the loan to farm. That is where the bottleneck is. And that may hamper the vision of Mr. President for us to diversify into agriculture completely, or to make the agricultural sector to work. Billions of naira have been invested into this Bank of Industry and Bank of Agriculture, just for people to access loan and farm. But I can tell you, the last man who is farming, subsistence farming in the rural area, have not been able to access this money. Even when it came, some of us said, okay, we'll go in. I have land. I have more than 15 hectares of land as I'm sitting down here. You understand? And I brought those papers and applied several times. I never accessed any. But you will see it on media that so amount of loan have come to Benue, so amount of loan have gone to Enugu State, so amount of. So the big hawkers, who are also the farmers, they will hijack it and take the money.
Now,
so it is still not reliable.
Now, Sylvanus, your parting words. Now, In terms of security, the farmer herders crisis is still a continued one. Now, based on what the president have said,
I think
how do you compare the crisis between the farmers and herders and even banditry with the president's statement?
I think the first thing the president ought to have done was to put appropriate security apparatchik in place to tackle the crisis that farmers are suffering in the villages. Banditry, like that Kaduna Road, is a large piece of land that if farmers should, if their security is guaranteed, I see them developing that land and transforming it into an agricultural hub where there will be rice production, yam and other things. But is there security? One, it is not just to say it. Does the president have the political will, the capacity to do it? The president should be pragmatic enough to tell us, these are my plans. He just said that I will lift 100 million of Nigerians out of poverty.
Yes, and there should be, thank you, and there should be sensitization.
What is the plans of the president? What are the stages? What is the policy? As in
the blueprint.
He just made the statement, thank you very much, without a blueprint. When he shows us the blueprint, we'll know where to come from, and that blueprint must cover security for the farmers. I fear for their lives, because most of them, their wives and their daughters are being raped in bushes by these herdsmen and other criminal elements. There must be security of these farmers. It must be done in a conducive and secured atmosphere for it to yield any positive results.
Thank you, gentlemen. It was Press Talk on Television Nigeria, and my guest, Daniel and Sylvanus. Thank you very much
for
this program.
Thank you for having me.
That's the much we have for you on Press Talk today. Join us tomorrow for the Friday edition of Press Talk. I remain Samuel Akwan.